welcome to the second episode of the You Gotta Get Up podcast. I'm your co-host, Elliot Jennings, and my boy,
Druzake Bazantes, as we all know and love in the flesh. But I know you guys are really digging that theme intro. I just know you guys are.
It's fire.
If you're not dancing or grooving to it after listening to it, like, I know you're an absolute liar.
It's vibes.
So,
sure.
Fun fact, me and Mr. Brown actually helped produce that together.
Yeah.
And the vocals you're hearing on the track is actually saying, "Can't stay on the ground now, you gotta get up."
Which, if you were here for our intro podcast, you would know the story of where that line came from.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. It's, it's a cool little callback to something that we'll always be able to remember.
That's right.
That's gonna be a story we tell our kids for sure.
You know what's funny is that, well, in case you didn't know, that's actually Elliot singing, but obviously through production and whatever, messing around with it, it's the product that we have now. But
yeah.
I don't know who I was showing it to, but someone sounded said like, "Oh, that's a really cool sample. Where'd you get that from?" It's like,
ooh, we made it.
I'm like, funny enough, we Kanye'd that. Like, we completely cooked that. So
they're like, yeah, where'd you get that sample from? Oh, I get it. No, literally, because we were sitting here and we're like, oh, a sample would kind of be cool here, and I'm like, well, let's just make one. I was like, let me just make one. I'll do the vocal, and then he pitch it up, freak the mix on it, and it sounds fantastic. It's like something that people would want to use as a sample anyway.
But the idea for it, though, is that we wanted to kind of incorporate the music into what we kind of perceive as ourselves as people, and also into that and decide the theme of this whole entire podcast. So it's it's really upbeat, it's fun, and that's what we're trying to portray. So that's what it is. So fun fact about the theme intro.
Yeah, and again, that was this being the main thing that we're about music creation, just music content in general. It was really fun to craft that as part of the show.
Yeah,
that was a really cool thing to do. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in hearing about how we did that, comment below, and we will gladly do a how we did it video on that. It'll be a short one. It'll be quick, but it'll be cool to show you guys as well.
Also, we forgot to mention this, but we are on social media on our Instagram. It's Gotta Get Up Pod. You Gotta Get Up Pod, and also on Twitter.
We're working on the
Twitter right now, but we're gonna leave a link most prominently in our Instagram bio, where it has a link tree, so it has all the social media involving YouTube. Where you can find the actual, podcast available, and also Twitter or X and Instagram. Yeah. So that's what we're going to probably do.
Twitter, TikTok will be on all of that.
TikTok as well, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of discourse on Twitter. You're going to be able to find us. That's going to be a really accessible way. If you have questions to ask us, things you want us to cover on the pod, you just shoot us a. Are they still called tweets since it's X? I call it Twitter still. I don't care.
I think they're still called tweets. I don't know what they call them. X's?
Yeah,
send me an X.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's kind of lame.
So it's just send us a tweet on there. Don't flood the DMs. Just mention us, tag us and tweet us, and we'll be able to, because there's going to be a few episodes per season that we craft the entire episode based on what you guys bring us as far as suggestions and what you want to hear about. And we really want you guys to integrate and what's the word I'm thinking of?
Incorporate?
No, we want you to engage with us. So we're gonna need you guys. We're gonna need you,
please,
literally, to help us keep pushing forward.
Involvement.
Yeah, we want you involved.
Interaction.
This is your podcast, just like it's ours.
That's right.
And because there is no reason for us to do it without you, so we really want you guys to engage with us.
Yes.
And interact with us. And there's gonna be a lot, like you said, there's gonna be a lot of giveaways, a lot of things that we do where we absolutely have to have your participation.
Yes.
And we can't wait to see how that turns out. So.
Absolutely. So, but interaction is essential for this podcast to survive. So we look forward to talking with you, meeting you again. Shoot us a tweet, send us a message, and we'll be happy to get back to you while we're still fresh and while we're still small.
Yeah,
we can remember all the little folks.
Yeah,
but
yeah. No, seriously though, it doesn't matter. We're gonna scale this thing. We plan on scaling it, and no matter how far we go with it, the core of it is still going to be our audience.
Yeah.
The core is still going to be engaging with people because that's the whole purpose of it. Again, we want to build community. We want everyone involved. We want you guys to get involved with one another as well. We want you guys to have discourses, and we want you guys to feel free. And this is going to be a place where, like, we're literally not going to tolerate any kind of, like, hateful behavior anywhere. So, like, just so you know, like, any of that stuff pops up, like, you're cooked. It's over with.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting banned from everything. You're getting blocked from everything. It doesn't matter if it's towards us or towards other people in the community. This is going to be a space for people, and that's the kind of space that we're cultivating as well. And that's about love for everyone, and it's just going to be centered around music.
Amen.
But yeah, so
I'm really looking forward to this episode because we've been talking about this episode even before we even have plans on recording this episode.
Yeah.
So.
No, seriously. Okay, so this conversation started and it started at work.
Yeah, as it always does.
Always. And it was literally, I think it was like early in the morning, but we found out Beyonce got snubbed for the CMAs this year, okay? From the country genre. Like, 0 nominations, I believe. Like, I don't think she got any nominations.
Yeah, I don't think she got nominated for Album of the Year or any Song of the Year.
No Song of the Year. Now, let me tell you why this doesn't make sense. Now, let me preface this by saying I'm not, like, a huge Beyonce fan or anything like that, okay? But I am a fan of music and, like, common sense, all right?
He says, like, I'm not a Beyonce fan, but this is the best woman that's ever lived in the entire world.
Look, I'm not even going to say that. It's not my metrics, bro. It's not my metrics. What I will say is that she had, like, the #1 country album when it dropped, and that's on Billboard's charts, not because, like, people said so. That was on Billboard's music's country chart. She reached #1, and Texas Hold'em was, like, the #1 country song in the world, like, when it dropped. So I just didn't understand, like, and then on top of that, she was nominated for a Grammy in the country field, but only the song, only Texas Hold'em. Her album wasn't nominated.
Well, so this is the whole entire idea behind this episode is because Elliot agrees with this as to where I have the complete opposite opinion. And that's okay, though. And again, this is a safe space, and, like, you know, hopefully that I don't get canceled. But my idea is that, like, growing up in Ohio with country music everywhere I went, when I see somebody that's, you know, like, you can tell when some things feel authentic and when some things don't feel authentic. And when I see Beyonce coming out of nowhere and just dropping a surprise album that happens to be labeled as country music, I'm like, this doesn't feel like country music. This doesn't have, like, a feeling in it. This isn't, like, I would agree that I don't think she should have been having a title for the CMAs or the ACMs or whoever it was.
It was the CMAs.
Or whatever it was. I agree that she shouldn't be on there, but however, I would disagree that she shouldn't be on the Grammys because of where I've been and what all that stuff. But
so you would say she shouldn't be on the CMAs or the Grammys?
I don't think she should be a part of either of them.
Okay.
So that's my hot take. But again, like, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there.
Take.
There's a lot of people out there that are going to sit there and say, like, this dude has no idea what he's talking about, and that's completely fine.
I want to know why. So tell me why you think she shouldn't. Because you said that, you know, where she just comes out of nowhere with the country album, and that's why you feel. But elaborate on that a little bit.
So we're gonna be talking about a couple things, but the first thing is again, I'm not saying I'm the voice for country music.
Sure.
I'm not some dude that's like, you know, I'm not gonna lie and say I've always loved country music since I was a kid, because I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first grew up and I was only listening to classic rock music, country was the enemy in my eyes. I'm like, because at the time Taylor Swift was just blowing up the radio, which we'll come back to talk about her in a minute. But she blew up the radio, and I couldn't stand listening to another Taylor Swift song. Right? When I was with my mom, it was country music. When I was with my dad, it was classical rock. Right? So I did that, but then growing into the field of country music, there's a whole entire thing about the storytelling and about the relatableness, and there's also a thing about just like how it's for everybody. But then when you see Beyonce, who's not necessarily a stranger to dropping surprise albums, but she dropped a whole entire surprise album in the realm of country music.
Sure.
And the idea is that like what I perceive as country music is not what she released. What she released is a pop artist releasing her interpretation of what country music is. So when I see somebody who's been, like growing up, the country lifestyle, baling hay or whatever, or, driving a F-150 or whatever, that's what we all perceive as country music. That has a little more relatableness to me compared to Destiny's Child, where she's singing about something completely different. But we had the argument in the sense it's like, well, Post Malone's doing the same exact thing. And I always said I disagree because Post Malone has actually been working his way into the realm of country music over a matter of time, not necessarily just dropping it all in at one point in time. So I think it makes more sense because he's been collaborating with artists, he's been writing with country music writers, he's been writing with, he's been writing and, doing stuff like that. He's making himself in the public eye of saying like, I am interested in doing country music, as to where Beyonce hasn't done that. It would make sense if she did with like, people like Chris Stapleton or people like, Mickey Guyton or whatever, and trying to get her feet in the water, but she didn't. She's just like, I'm gonna do this.
Okay, so two things then, right? So you said that for one, like Post Malone, kind of worked his way into the country music sphere, like dipping one foot at a time, and then kind of fully, and then kind of when he gets there, he like fully comes on with everything, right? And he also used writers that were
country music songwriters that have number one songs in country music. Yeah,
right. Okay, so here's my thing about that. All right. Let Beyonce tell it. The whole reason she wrote Cowboy Carter, the reason she did this album was because she did, in fact, try to work her way into country music. And that was in 2016 when she performed on the CMAs with the Dixie Chicks. Okay?
Some people would agree that the Dixie Chicks aren't country music anymore, but I digress.
Right. But it was on the CMAs, the same awards that snubbed her this year. Right? That's why this is important. So, after that performance, Beyonce supposedly felt like she was not welcomed there when she attempted to do it. Like, when she attempted to kind of dip her feet in the water by just sharing her celebrity, which I heard, what was it, Keith Urban, who was like, if you want to do country music, maybe, like, do the little country music, life with us, right? Yeah. And so... to quote that, this guy said on Twitter, and this was something that I found interesting, it's kind of relatable to like what we do like on a day-to-day. He goes, well, typically, to work your way into country music, the classic way has always been to ingratiate yourself with the Grand Ole Opry and share your celebrity with them, okay? And that's typically how people work their way into the field, as well as like, starting with like a song or so, and working your way in. If Beyonce attempted to do this in 2016 and then was faced with backlash, right? And she goes, okay, well, like, you guys don't really want me here. What is that reason, right? And I think the reasons that were thrown around were like racism and sexism and all that. I'm not going to get into that. But whatever the reason is, because everyone's supposed to be welcome into country music no matter what, if they want. And especially if you're, like, let me tell you something, bro. The Opry as a show does not have the clout anymore to just be talking about we don't want someone of Beyonce's status coming in to like help around, right? So it's like you would think that they would jump at that opportunity. So if something like that happens, if she gets backlash from the country music industry, because it doesn't matter only what country music fans say, because obviously Beyonce has her own fan base that she can bring to the country music industry. Yeah. If they would accept Beyonce into the realm. So it's not a money play for them to not let her in. It has to be something else. I'm not going to like pretend to speak on like what that is. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to conspiracize or like about any of it. But for whatever reason, she wasn't welcomed. So she goes, okay, well, in order to get those writers, to get placements with those writers that are on a Post Malone album who have all of these number one hits in the country music industry, well, I would have to be welcomed in to do that. Otherwise, they're not going to want to work with me. Yeah. So I'm Beyonce. I'm going to bring in my own writers who can do this thing that is country music, politics and branding aside. So it's like, at this point, we're talking about what is country music, because is it the image, like you were saying, with the trucks and the bales of hay and the beer and the heartbreak in the song, which ultimately is derived from blues. I digress. You know what I'm saying? Is it the sounds? Is it the production? Yeah. You know, and the melodies that are used, the instruments that are played, if there's fiddle involved and a lot of rock, but you have like pop country, you have rap country, all of these things. Shaboozie's welcomed into the country sphere, and he's doing rap country. Yeah. And a few years ago, when Lil Nas X did Old Town Road, they were like, that's not country music, and they ended up having to retract that and put him on the country charts. But now Shaboozie's in here, which he's from where I'm from. Shout out to DMV. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Is
that what it is, the DMV?
He's from I believe he's from Woodbridge.
No, I'm talking about, like, is that the area it's called? DMV?
Yeah, DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Wow, I don't know why my first thing literally went to, like, getting your license.
The Department of Motor Vehicles.
Like, that's what it's called?
Like, yeah, no, he's...
No, I'm like, that's what it's called? Really?
They call it the DMV, and realistically, it's mainly just the beltway that goes around it. So, like, because the way that it's shaped, it goes in a circle, and, like, there's parts that are, like, it's not, like up, down, and, like, middle. It's, like, a whole circle of an area, which is why they call it the DMV.
Interesting.
Like, but anyway.
The DMV.
Like, so, he's from the DMV. Shaboozie is welcomed into the country sphere, and he just does rap country, like, and all of his songs aren't even country, I don't think. It's, like, the ones that I like are, like, country-based, but, like, Beverly Hills is the first song that I heard, and it's just, it's mainly just a rap song with, like, a guitar sample in it, and then he's talking about, like, Western themes, like cowboys and outlaws and sheriffs and stuff like that, you know? So it's like, if we're talking about one thing's not country, I don't understand how we're saying, if we're saying Shaboozie is, I don't see how we're saying.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. The thing is, though, is that, like, when you see people, like, is my thing just shaking, like, constantly?
It's because
I'm leaning up against my own table. Anywho, so what happened was that I think the reason is, though, is that, like, well, one, I think people have a problem with it because it's, like, Beyonce in the realm of, like, country music, like, she was not ever really, I guess, like, not the word is not established into it, but I think she was, like, not necessarily what people remember see as per welcome or whatever is because, again, like, we know that you're Beyonce in this realm, right? But again, it's like, I would say the same thing as Taylor Swift, though, where she went out and did, like, a whole nother different thing, but in that field, it just worked out in her best interest. But she kind of, like, literally sat there and completely stopped country music in general. She's like, I'm not doing this no more. I'm going full on. Okay, awesome. That was awesome. First technical difficulty, that was awesome. Second, only took 2 episodes in there. Look at that WAV file. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So, but Taylor Swift completely just rejected everything in the world of country music for a minute. Even though I think she still loved it, and she was still probably, like, writing songs for it, but she just sat there for her own industry and artistry. She's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go full on pop music. But when Beyonce sits there and says, like, oh, I'm a pop artist, so I'm going to do a country album, which goes to my next question, is that, like, does technically every genre then mean that it's all subjective? So does that mean I can perceive blues as rap music? Because we're talking about foundation. It's like, what you're saying, it's like, well, is it the sound? Is it the meaning? Is it the lyrics? Is it this? It's like, well, that could be anything then. It's like, what do jazz people sing about compared to what heavy metal people sing about? I mean, you can technically have any certain genre.
Well, heavy metal is technically jazz, but it's just
and yes, in a big old long stretch of, like,
well, I would say that it's the closest thing to jazz. Like, if you're talking about a genre, like, I would say it's closer to, like, it's just jazz with different amps, different sounds on the music, but, like, the counting that goes into it, like the rhythmic styles. But my point being, like, genres are typically defined, like, music, if we're being real, everything's derivative of jazz, which is that being rock, whether it being blues, and then country is just like an offshoot essentially of blues and rock. So it's like the things that separate it, if you're talking about country music, is just the topics and the instruments that are used in that production.
It creates a what the heck is familiarity? Is that the word? Familiar. I don't know why my brain just sat there and said, I'm taking a 5. I'll come back later. But it just sat there and said, like, LOL, I don't need to work anymore. Yeah. But the thing is though, is that like is that basically meaning that like I can't do a blues song in a rap way? Because does it make sense? Am I stupid? Because the idea is that the genres are based upon like the foundation of whatever it's built on, or like the interpretation, or like there's a format that they go along with it. Like you don't really hear a lot of like rap songs in 3/4 time because it's based around a certain kind of history that's always been 4/4.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So does that mean technically rap can't be in 3/4? Or
no.
someone just never done it then? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I never.
But that's my whole point, because it's just you're talking about something that's got a foundation. Like essentially, if you were to find a way, like a lot of rap samples specifically that ended up in 4/4 are based off of 3/4 time samples.
Yeah.
Right. So they're 3/4 time samples, but they're multiplied like to where they go into 4/4 perception when you hear it as a whole. But that doesn't mean the things in between them aren't 3/4.
Yeah.
But that's my point. As if you're talking about Beyonce coming in and doing an album that is country, it's intended to be like perceived as country music. It's got the typical elements that you would hear in country music, the lyricism. It's got the I don't mean lyricism, but I mean the content of the lyrics. It's got the content of production, meaning like the instruments that are commonly found in country music. The style, like the stylism of it, of the rhythms and the melodies are in a country music format. She's got Dolly Parton on the album.
And yes, that's awesome.
You know what I'm saying? But
again, it's just that like, say for example, if I had like Nelly and Tim McGraw, like
right.
Tim McGraw had Nelly on it, or like whoever it was. I don't know if it was on. I think it was on both. I think it was on country radio, and I think it also was on like R&B radio, whatever, or pop radio at the same time. But it's like, I think that was a good crossover because you couldn't really necessarily determine like what you would call it. Would you call it country music? Would you call it R&B? I think it would probably more like a Nelly song.
But it was still nominated for country music.
It was still nominated, but the sense is that it's like, just because you have somebody that is in the country realm to be on a song, does that necessarily mean that it is that genre?
But it's not only because of that. It's because also the stylism. When you're talking about a crossover is something that blends the two genres. So like, you're having some rap elements and you're having some country elements in the case of Nelly and Tim McGraw. But you have both of those. Like the chorus is more country, and then the sounds are more country. But the drums of them are going to be more rap and like more Nelly R&B, style, right? R&B. So that's kind of what happened here. Except there's more. I would say Beyonce's album is more leaning towards country elements than the other ones.
But again, for example, though, I think the biggest thing that people are upset about, though, is that like it just all happened at one time. But I think people are mad that it's popping up as number one, but only necessarily because one, it's Beyonce, but also two, in the fact that it's like she has such a huge following that like her fan base can sit there. If she has like 200, I don't know how many followers she has. Let's say for example 100 million followers, but say she has 100 million followers, and then she has this new album, and everybody just like listens to this album, and then then that song, Texas Hold'em, ends up getting, like 1 billion streams compared to somebody who's been inside the country realm for, years, like Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
She's outdoing these people in the field that they've been doing for a while, but it's like, you would never see that from like Morgan Wallen trying to do a rap album. It would never blow up the same way as Beyonce did a country album.
But
because the fan base is really pushing the numbers compared to the actual music itself pushing the numbers. Does that make sense?
Well, I see what you're saying, but at that point, we're talking about, is it even fair that people's fan bases are pushing them to the forefront of any genre, not just because it's country?
Well, I would say that it's not. I say that's not true, though, because if you look at people like The Weeknd, who has the biggest streams of, like Spotify of all time, I would think that he has less fans than I would say people like Beyonce. But Beyonce is probably a bigger artist than The Weeknd, but I think people also...
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true that he has less fans. I think his fans are less cult-like than Beyonce's.
I would agree. Same thing with Taylor Swift, though. But
that was going to be my next point, because Taylor Swift gets to go in and she gets to dominate the Grammys every year and win Album of the Year every single year. Not necessarily because her album is even better than the other people in the category.
That's what I'm saying, though. But is it coming to the point though where numbers are becoming like the identification of what something is? So again, like Lil Nas X, when he did Old Town Road, people weren't necessarily clarifying as country music, But then here comes Billy Ray Cyrus, who obviously had like one of the biggest singles in the 90s for country music, Achy Breaky Heart.
Cyrus, yeah.
But then he gets him on there and he's like, now you can't say it's not country because I have a country star on my song. But that's
the industry doing that.
But yes, I would agree. But then when you look at people, but he could have continued riding that train into the sense like, I'm going to continue doing this more of this country stuff, but he didn't. He sat there and went on to like, all this other stuff like call me what you want, call me what you, but like he didn't stay in that realm. If he stayed in that realm, I would think people would be more open. It's like, yeah, this is technically considered country music because he stayed in that lane. But when you have people like Beyonce, who's never really made that impact, but she also has people. I think also the thing is that it feels like she's trying to be country in the sense that people like are like writing country songs. These people lived it, these people have gone through it and like stuff like that, or they can like share relatability into it.
But I don't think that's fair to say because that would be like saying that everything she's talking about I think we're talking about stylism versus content. So if we're talking about what country music, like forget it. So can we agree that the style of music that she did, the album is country music?
It would be marketed towards country music, yes.
It would be okay. So now I don't think it's fair to say that writing music in a certain style mean that you've not typically written it in means that the things that you're saying is inauthentic in that style, because lyricism can be, you can write the same type of lyrics in pop or R&B or country or rap even if you really wanted to.
I'd agree.
So like I don't think it's fair to say it's inauthentic just because she did it in a different style. Yes, she intended to do it in a country music style, which was the point of the album, like as she's told it. She was not welcomed into the space where the writers that would typically write hit country songs, and that's important, hit country songs, because everyone can't write hits, but she's Beyonce, so whatever she writes is going to be even if she doesn't write it herself, whatever she comes out with is going to be a hit, and that's something for.
I would say it's almost like kind of like like a cult thing though. Like when see Taylor like Kanye literally
it's a platform.
Kanye literally can drop anything, literally anything. The dude can literally just breathe into a microphone.
He literally dropped Poopity Scoop.
Yeah, it's the dude can literally drop Poopity Scoop. And also, but that song
people hated it though. Like they hated
but
that.
But he also released that song. It's like you my Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. It's like But like again, like but the dude has that cult fan base where anything he does, people think he's like
Kanye's fan base is as cult like.
Not anymore like it was. But when he dropped like Father Stretch My Hands, everybody was like, oh, this is the craziest sample that's ever lived.
Well, Kanye's clout. Like Kanye's clout has.
I would say it died after the Jesus is King album.
I think probably before that because he was
from the Life of Pablo album. You think it dropped there?
Yeah, because I think what happened
was I just met this model.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That was crazy.
That was nuts. So he was low key on a spiral. You know what I mean? He was on a spiral because of like all the things he was going on outside of the music, and so like that became a factor when people were like, we're gonna kind of stay away from him. But he hasn't really had like a cult following since he really dropped like his original stuff, because he was kind of innovative in the way that he sampled, and that's kind of what drove him to his success. But I wouldn't say that it's the same thing. People love Beyonce. There's a show, and it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's literally I have to ask my wife about it. We watched it, but it's like this literally it's literally this show about this girl, and she's obsessed with this pop artist, and she drives like across the country, like she is psychotic, and she goes on this kill spree, like she's a serial killer essentially.
Oh, word.
She becomes a serial killer because like she loves this artist so much, and she believes that this artist is talking to her through her music, and like goes and really wants to meet her.
Is this based on a true story? Is it just like all made up?
No, it's so it's based on a lot of different true stories. Like those stories that happen inside the show are things that they're versions of things that actually happened, but not with one specific person. They're like a bunch of different things that happened in it. I have to find the name of the name of the show, and if we figure it out by the time this comes out, we'll have it placed like right here. And that way you can kind of look it up. And it's a really good show. But it's drama. Billie Eilish is in it.
What?
Yeah. Billie Eilish is in it, and she runs a cult. It's crazy.
Billie Eilish runs a cult?
Billie Eilish runs a cult in this movie. Like, she, like,
honestly,
takes
though, that doesn't sound too surprising.
Yeah,
though.
she meets her at Bonnaroo. It's crazy. Like, right?
What?
Yeah, Billie Eilish meets this girl, takes her to Bonnaroo, and gets her in. It's a crazy story. But anyway, cult-like in a sense that these people will literally they take out new credit cards to buy tickets to her shows, bro. Like, it's crazy. They max their
It's the same thing. Like, girls were crying when Taylor Swift sat there was the reason, and they were like canceling their weddings. I'm like, you're canceling forever for like one night to hear like 3 songs that you really love?
They will borrow money from their daddies and never pay them back, like, and ruin relationships for these superstars.
That's what I'm saying.
I've never met anyone who felt that way about Kanye. We know multiple people who really like love Taylor Swift, like. Anything about Taylor Swift, like, they love it.
But again, like, this girl caused a whole entire like spike in like the NFL. Like, that's how much power she has for people that don't even know anything about football or anything. But now they all know Travis Kelce.
They know Travis Kelce. He's not even going to be in the league that much longer. It's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. The dude's got too much clout.
Do?
The amount of money that he made this year off his jersey sales from just Taylor Swift and him dating.
Yeah,
dude, the dude could probably retire.
It's nuts.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just it's ridiculous. But back to the Beyonce thing. It's just that like she has such a strong.
She does have a strong fan base, but I don't think it's fair to be like, okay, well, but here's the way that I see it, because she is using her platform to bring other people up. Shabuzi was well on his way to being like a star, but the Beyonce album took him, like, catapulted him to the forefront of the industry.
It's the cult effect. I'm not saying like I'm not.
No, it is 100%.
But it's like everybody. But again, it's like if you're in like Sabrina Carpenter, like, you know what I'm saying, like she did well for herself, I guess. Apparently, probably prior before she released her solo career. But, you know, she was on Disney Channel. You know what I'm saying? Like, so she did pretty, I guess, decent.
She is Nancy Cartwright's niece. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Nancy Cartwright is her aunt, I believe. Like,
wow.
the voice of Bart Simpson and, like, all those characters.
Isn't it crazy how Hollywood is all connected?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anywho's.
No, seriously.
But it's Taylor Swift had Sabrina Carpenter. Personally,
same deal.
Working at the Ryman Auditorium, I heard that Sabrina Carpenter is coming and doing a show at the Ryman while she was on tour with Taylor Swift, and she had like kind of like a one-off kind of thing at the Ryman, but I never even heard of her. I'm like, who is this girl?
Of her either.
I mean, like, I don't know anything about it. I saw the stage set up, and I'm like, this is pretty eccentric for like for someone who I've never heard of before.
She had been there the year before that, and it was her own thing too. She was on like her last tour before that. She had been there, and I had never heard of her. And I think I had heard of her before this tour, but she did her own thing, and it was still big. I remember being like, yo, this is nuts. Why are they doing this? But
honestly, when you're on tour with Taylor Swift as your opener,
you're
out. Guaranteed to get at least 1 million followers.
It's success, guaranteed.
Because it's guaranteed. You're on like Taylor Swift's tour.
It's just like
this woman basically just sat there and signed you a check.
Yeah.
For $1 million. Yeah. Instantaneously every single night.
Whole ton. Yeah. It's really crazy, and
you need to basically like be like, I don't know, dude. You're indebted to Taylor Swift for the rest of your life because of how much money she made you on that tour.
Well, and she does, and that's the thing.
But now she's had like super major success. She's obviously had that song, you know, like Espresso.
Please.
Espresso's
a bop. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna dissect that song in another episode, but yeah.
But it's just like, again, it's like when you have like this effect of these people that have such huge fans or followings, like, you know, like Beyonce can get Shabuzi to be where he is now, and Taylor Swift can get Sabrina Carpenter where she is now. It's the same thing though. So I'm not saying that they're not talented, but the thing is though, is that like, where would Sabrina Carpenter be if she didn't have the opportunity for Taylor Swift? Where would Shabuzi be if he didn't have the opportunity for Beyonce? Would he still be blowing up? I think maybe.
Shabuzi would be blowing up. He was on his way already, but I don't think he gets kicked to the forefront. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of my point. I think Sabrina Carpenter was on a pop star track already, whereas Shabuzi was kind of in a niche lane where he didn't really have mainstream like accolades. You know what I'm saying? Bar Song has been certified as like the most successful country song of the 2020s. It topped Morgan Wallen's what was that big song he had?
Whiskey Glasses?
No, whatever his biggest one was, not the one with Post Malone.
He had a lot, dude.
The biggest one that he had, it topped it.
Down, Whiskey Glasses.
I think it might have been Whiskey Glasses. And Bar Song topped that, which, by the way...
More Than My Hometown?
If you didn't know, I think it was Whiskey Glasses. But if you didn't know, a bar song, Tipsy, is a rendition of a song called Tipsy from back in the early mid 2000s. I believe that was Chingy, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. And,
oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Everybody in the club getting tipsy. Yeah.
Yep.
1, here comes the 2 to the 3 to the 4. Yeah, that's
interesting.
That's a Chingy song. So it's an interpolation of that. But
that's a great word.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great word.
But yeah, I mean, he reached those heights after the effect of Cowboy Carter.
Yes.
And my thing with Beyonce is these writers, I mean, she did have like people like John Batiste on there as writers, but like these writers weren't known in the country realm. And how do we know they don't want to write country music for people?
But here's the thing though. I would make the argument, you're Beyonce, I guarantee you at least some major songwriters in the world of country music would be happy to write songs with you because you're Beyonce. Right? And if you sit there, especially tell them, it's like, hey, I'm interested in doing a country project, but you tell them, it's like, hey, like, I'd be happy to do that. But there was nobody on the list I've seen that's actually, like, there might have been, I just haven't dug down deep enough. But there was,
I didn't see any of the typical ones.
But yeah, I didn't see people in there like Ashley Gorley, Shane McAnally, especially Shane McAnally.
But those people have deals, bro. Those people have deals where where the stuff that they write is technically, like, owned, by the labels that they're, or the publishing companies that they're signed to.
But isn't she signed to? Who's she signed to?
Beyonce's is signed to Rock Nation, which is
Jay-Z's label.
Yeah, and she's managed by Rock Nation, and I think it's the same one as Rihanna. So I don't know who does their label.
But let's just say, for example.
But what I mean is, if the industry decides to blackball her from that field, she can't just work with somebody like Ashley Gorley if the powers that be don't want Ashley Gorley to write for Beyonce.
I mean, I get it, but it's also, if you look at something like the CMAs, whatever, the CMA is the Country Music Association, and if they reject that, the album or the song of the year or whatever, because they believe that you have better, songs in that category, because they might not necessarily be looking at numbers, as to where the Recording Academy might be looking at numbers. It's like, oh, we can't necessarily decline Beyonce's efforts because she has made a lot of streams or a lot of progress, but I didn't hear. But what's crazy, I don't know if this is just me saying, but I don't know if I ever heard of Texas Hold'em on country radio. If anything,
it was like number one. It went number one
on country radio, but on radio, or are we talking like XM?
I don't know. It went number one on Billboard, which is like the everything.
I know, but so Billboard is not necessarily country music or country radio, but as to the sense of like, you could be like clarified number one in country category by Billboard.
That's blackballing from the industry.
But that's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying.
The radio is supposed to play what people want to listen to. So if numbers dictate that people want to listen to a certain song and the radio doesn't play it, it's because the powers that be don't want those people getting shine, because they don't care about money at that point. Because if you want money, which is the point of business, the point of radio, you push what's going to get you viewers, what's going to get you listeners. It makes no sense for the person who's number one on Billboard and has the most popular song or album to not get play anywhere. It doesn't make sense. That's why Post Malone is every freaking where with I Had Some Help all year, ever since it dropped. That's why, because people want to listen to the song, and he's free, and he's all over, not just country
But the
music.
thing is, though, he's playing that song with Morgan Wallen, though. But again, Morgan Wallen's the biggest country star right now. But then when you have Morgan Wallen on the track, you're basically going to get that song guaranteed. But the Morgan Wallen thing
only matters because people want to listen to it.
Exactly, though, because here's the thing, though, is that Morgan Wallen is a huge country music star, and anything again, it's the same thing. I would not say that necessarily Morgan. He's probably the closest one, or maybe Luke Combs. Maybe inside the world, he's basically the country version of like a Taylor Swift inside the world of country music. Like, he's basically the most important guy in country music. And if you're like have Morgan Wallen on a track or he sings one of your songs, whatever, you might as well just sit there and retire, because he's gonna make you so much money. But when you have Morgan Wallen on the track and he's been blowing up country radio for the past 5 years with almost every single song releases, that song's guaranteed to get radio play. As to the sense of like where like Beyonce's getting that song, Texas Hold'em on pop radio. So it's like, you're getting that song played on pop, we're not going to play it on country music. But it's also to a thing of like, yeah, it could be labeled, because I can release an album, but I can label it as a pop album, even though it's completely rock and roll. But again, Billboard charts are just looking at it, it's like, yeah, we believe this is, country music, even though like the Country Music Association doesn't. So again, it kind of takes away power away from from the sense of the Country Music Association or the country music people or Academy, because it sits there and says oh yeah, we don't agree with this, but you guys do. So but we're hosting the Grammys, but the Grammys can't tell who to put on the CMA Awards.
But that's the same thing that happened with Lil Nas X. He released Old Town Road, and essentially it was a pop song because it was a cult song. It was a cult following song. People loved it. And in fact, I don't think it blew up even until after it charted on country music, and then they pulled it.
But do you think he intentionally meant to make it a country music song?
Absolutely. He intended to do it for the reason that the whole thing blew up. He knew it was going to cause controversy. And I'll say Lil Nas X, for everything that he's got going on, I don't agree with everything that he does, but for the way that he maneuvered his way into the industry, which, funny enough, was by starting a Nicki Minaj fan page and then gaining 300,000 followers on it on Twitter, and then changing it into his own artist thing, his own artist page.
That's
and then dropping.
That's a fiend move.
You know what I'm saying? But it worked. Now here's the thing. They removed it.
They didn't subscribe to that. But they got finessed.
It charted on country radio because of the content and the sound. So the things he was talking about and the sound of it, it charted. The only thing difference was was the drums that were kind of like trap drums. But then the argument became, what is country music? Which is why he blew up like that, because they pulled him. The internet went crazy, and they were like, it's not fair that you pull him off because he has everything that country music should be that, and that it encapsulates. And so they ended up, because of the popularity of it and the backlash, they had to put it back on the charts. And at that point, they decided, okay, we're gonna bring in we're gonna make him country legit. We're gonna bring all of these features. Billy Ray Cyrus. He had 15 different versions of that song.
He did have 15 versions of that song.
So
Dude
it's
made a freaking bag.
He did quickly, and then he capitalized off it and skated off. But that's my thing. You're talking about Morgan Wallen. If he gets on a country song, then it's gonna blow up, which is why they put it on country radio. That's my point.
But the same thing as Taylor Swift, though. Any song that she releases is gonna blow up.
But that's
because it's Taylor Swift.
But that's my point, because the reason that they play it on radio isn't because it's Morgan Wallen. They're playing it on the radio because Morgan Wallen brings listeners. So if the point is listeners, at the end of the day, radio needs listeners. That's how they make their money from advertisers. Then it doesn't make sense to not place the song that classifies sonically as that genre, to place it on there for any reason. You can't tell me a good reason why you don't place the number one song that people are listening to in that genre on the radio, or chart it, you know what I'm saying? Or put it up for an award. And I'm not saying she has to win the award. I'm not saying that CMAs has that she would be the best album of the year on CMAs or the Grammys or best song or any of that. But to not nominate her is downright criminal, because you're talking about the biggest album, and one of the biggest albums and one of the biggest songs of the year sonically in that genre. So that's what just doesn't make sense to me. Which one of my notes on here, I just saw you peeking at them. One of my notes is that this same thing happened to Ray Charles in 1963 when he released, what is that, Modern Sounds of country and western music, right? That was a purely country album, and they refused to put him in that category, which made no sense. Charlie Pride went on to win, I'm pretty sure, over 30 accolades in country music. So I don't understand why you don't play
you see
something.
People like Willie Nelson and him and Ray Charles have done songs together. Now, obviously, we can probably sit there and say that Willie Nelson is almost
he's not remembered.
He's He's actually only been a member. Fun fact, this is my job. But Willie Nelson is no longer a member of the Grand Ole Opry. He doesn't want to be tied down. But Willie Nelson, he and Ray Charles worked together.
Yeah, of
right?
Course.
So, like, you know.
Willie was a real one.
I mean, he was a real one. But same thing, Johnny Cash had a television show back in the day. And he said that he had he had Ray Charles on his television show, and Ray Charles did his own version of Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Which is obviously probably one of the biggest Johnny Cash songs of all time, if you don't know that. But it's the same thing though. But I think there's a thing of like, look, it's like, for example, let's just say for you know, laughs and giggles, that there is, let's say Kanye. If Kanye says like, everybody, I'm gonna do a country album, everybody's be like, that's hysterical because we don't see you as country music. We only see you as Kanye, right? But then if Kanye, you know, does it, but again, since he's Kanye, everybody's going to listen to it, but the numbers are racking up. But again, say, for example, the song blows up or whatever, or I'm not saying, do I think that Beyonce had, you know, successful help through, like, you know, social media? I think that's everybody. I'm not saying that she didn't get that because that she's not talented. Again, is a song Texas Hold'em a catchy song? Yeah, I think it's a catchy song. But into the sense, though, where it's like, I see it as like, if Beyonce, but again, it's like, if we take, for example, somebody from the country realm to go out here and just go and do a rap album, surprisingly, would that person necessarily get the credibility of the fan base to get them a number one song or number one album in the rap world? And everybody be like, absolutely not. But
that's happened.
Who?
Post Malone went on, and now Post Malone, for those who don't know, before Post Malone blew up in the rap sphere, he was in the studio working on like folk country-esque music.
So, but again, there's his history though in the back. Right, he can show up and then he's like, I've been doing this. I love this kind of music.
Time out. But why does he get to come over into the rap sphere, make a song like White Iverson, and then get catapulted to the top of rap when he never did that before? Mm-hmm. And then he gets named something like, he took Best Male Rap Artist of 2020 when from the, I can't remember what awards that was. Maybe
the VMAs,
MTV
Awards,
something like that. I think MTV Awards.
MTV Awards.
Yeah, but he won Best Male Rap Album. He doesn't even rap. He does melodic singing type stuff over rap beats. Yeah. So if he can do that, why is it not fair for someone like Beyonce to come in and do actual country style things, elements from her, not just the production, but her singing and her writing, you know, even if she does have help with the writing, why can she not come over and cross over? If we're talking about genres and people being free to cross over and do these things, because that's my thing. Anyone should be able to do whatever music they want. If you're going to do a whole song in a certain genre or a whole album in a certain genre.
And that's what I like about people like Jake McCollier. The dude just does whatever he wants to do. And if you listen to all his albums, every song's different. Yeah. But I think they put him inside like a genre of like world music or whatever. Like, I don't think they really like kind of have him titled in there, but he's won Grammys.
It's not pop, that's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. But he's won Grammys for multiple different things. But he's just an artist. He doesn't fit into a norm of like, I'm this genre. But into the sense of someone who does fit this norm of this genre, again, like, am I going to expect that Morgan Wallen's going to hear and compete against people like Eminem? Absolutely not. But again, it's like, if Eminem dropped an album compared to Morgan Wallen dropped an album, and I saw people like Morgan Wallen winning that album over Eminem, I'm like, that makes no sense. This dude is a country artist doing a rap project compared to a rap dude who's always done rap, nothing else, and he got gypped from this album. It makes no sense. Compared to like people like, you know.
But Never Done, I don't think Never Done is fair to say because we don't know what kind of stuff people, maybe not known for, that's fair. But hell, Macklemore wasn't known until his first album, and he did rap. And
I just want to take a pause. That Thrift Shop still goes crazy to this day.
I don't like that song.
Oh, you're crazy.
Hot take.
What do you mean?
I don't like that song.
What?
I don't like that song, okay? I don't like that song. And that album is a pop album, not a rap album.
I'm gonna pop some tags.
It's a pop album.
$20 in my pocket. Okay?
And to that point, Macklemore came in and won Best Rap Album in the same year that Kendrick Lamar dropped Good Kid, Mad City. I don't think...
That's what I'm talking about. If you don't think that Macklemore should have won that album...
But he did, and he was the fact that he was nominated... Beyonce can't get nominated for something as simple as album of the year.
But to be fair, though, I don't think they have a rap music association. I think they have a country music association, but they don't think they have a rap music association. So if there was like a thing specifically made for rap music, then it might be a completely different outcome. But then since there isn't, I don't think they can really be mad about that.
But even so, she was still only nominated for one single category in country music,
which happens
for the
to
Grammys.
Be which happens to be the song.
But she did a whole album, and that album charted #1.
I get it. The problem is, though, I don't think that it matters based upon, I think they're looking at everything. I think, obviously, since the Recording Academy is only looking at, the album may have gone #1, but there's also people like Casey Musgraves, who I'm a huge fan of, but she has won multiple Grammys for Best Country Album without even having songs on the radio. So it's a whole thing. Like, it's all about, like, politics and like, in logistics.
But that's my point. It's all politics, but also they do have to factor in viewership. They have to factor that. There's no... But again, otherwise, Taylor Swift doesn't win every album of the year for the last 15 years.
That's what we agree on. But it's the same thing, though, because it all comes down to her fan base and her viewership, as to the same thing where Beyonce has 100 million followers compared to where Morgan Wallen only has, like, 2.3 million.
But that's my point. The point is it's not consistent. They're not being consistent for someone like Beyonce, where they will be consistent for someone like Taylor Swift. Every year, the biggest albums get nominated for the Grammys.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get nominated in whatever field they are, whether it be MTV Awards, Country Music Awards. They get nominated for whatever fields they're relevant to. So for Beyonce to be almost snubbed, and you said you would not agree.
My thing, yeah, that's kind of crazy.
How long has that been off?
Probably just like a minute.
Okay.
But it's fine. I'll just have to cut it. This is all...
Yeah.
Future me, this is all going to editing. Anyways, okay. Go back about 2 minutes back.
2 minutes back. Oh, geez.
So talking about, like, well, Beyonce, you know...
Okay, so Beyonce's thing is, like, if we're not being consistent if Taylor Swift can win, because we're talking about Grammys, we're talking about like other side awards, because you mentioned the fact that, like, you're talking about specialized awards, country music awards.
Yeah, there's a country music association that, and their committee, they think that these songs fit the requirements.
It's not even all of them, because I watched an interview on someone who said that she was one of the people who voted for it, but they just happened to politic their way into out. So the way that those things work, they bring things to the table, and then they vote on them, on whether they should be nominated.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to tell me that all of the people that were nominated for these CMAs, if Shaboozey is nominated for a bunch of stuff, Beyonce should be nominated for something in the Country Music Awards. She's not nominated for Best Song. You know what I'm saying? Shaboozey's nominated for Best Song, I'm pretty sure.
In Grammys?
No, Country Music Awards.
Oh, word.
He has 2 nominations in the CMAs. And even he said that her album is one of the most innovative country music albums we've ever seen.
He sounds like Kanye West.
You know what I'm saying?
Taylor Swift.
But it's not fair, because it's like you're picking and choosing. It is politics, like you said. You said it's kind of politics which chooses that, and that's my point. Politics dominates these things, and they shouldn't, because what should be, like, it makes that's almost like, that's like someone saying, okay, like, in the NFL, who's like the who should get MVP, and they put out a poll to the entire country or the entire world, and, like, it's unanimously like 95% Patrick Mahomes, and then they say, we think it should be Lamar Jackson. We're going to give it to Lamar Jackson. At what point does your viewership matter? Because for everything else, when it comes to Taylor Swift and artists of that, like, and Morgan Wallen, like you said, their viewership matters. They take that into consideration when they make their decisions.
And I think that's where, like, voting comes in handy, because, again, like, obviously, like, where people, like, say it's like, well, there could be songs that are nominated for Grammys, and I'm like, I've never even heard of the song. But again, it's like, there has to be a whole entire committee of people that have heard these songs that I've never heard of before. But again, I'm like, how this song even get on here? Or, like, the songs that I think should be on there aren't even nominated. I'm like, what are you talking about? But again, it all comes down to, like, people's opinion and preference of, like, everything. And it's just like, I don't think the CMAs or anything had anything necessarily to do, like, politically against Beyonce, in the sense it's like, oh, like, we don't want to have Beyonce because she's a pop artist. I think they just looked at it in the sense it's like, we just think that there's better country music songs or albums out there that are just in the field of this, but compared to where the people committee or the recording academy, they're like, it's like, well, Beyonce had the #1 song on country radio. It's like, well, yeah,
well, if that was the case, she would be nominated for album of the year.
But that's the case, then. But that's the whole point, though. Then it should be a cake sweep for Beyonce.
Well, no, nominated doesn't mean she's gonna win them, but nominated.
But if you're saying that based upon viewership, it's based upon numbers and whatever, then Beyonce would just get everything and it's a cakewalk. She's like, she had the #1 song, she had obviously like the best album because it was on top of the Billboard charts, whatever. Then everything would just be handed to Beyonce. It's like should be no need as compared to where people sit there and say like, well, there has to be something that we're all looking at. It has to be based upon, does the genre. I think that also the Academy has to give people
critically acclaimed. Like the album is critically acclaimed as one of the best country albums. It's not just her viewership. It's not fair to say only her fans liked her music. That's not the case. People who reviewed the album liked the album. They were like, okay, people called it innovative. It's a different take on country music. It's pushing the genre. It's crushing. It's bending it. And that's one of the things that typically when you're talking about music, it's different because what are we talking about if all country music, or even if it's rap, if all rap sounds the same and nobody's changing anything? There's a reason why Outkast swept a bunch of stuff when they came out. It's because they were pushing the genre. That's what Beyonce did with the country album. And again, I'm not even someone who listens to country music very much or Beyonce, but I do know what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from people who do listen to it.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, if I go out here and I sit there and say, like, Post Malone, well, he didn't even get nominated because I think he missed the window for,
but let's not pretend like he's not going to get nominated for every single category next year.
But here's the thing, though, is that, again, when you're talking about numbers, I think there has to be some, like, sense of, like, accountability. It's like, well, these numbers are showing that this song was the #1 country song on Billboard because of Post Malone on here. But, again, it's like, well, Post Malone has a success in this realm and also in this realm, but also there has to be a connecting factor, and that happens to be the connecting factor of Morgan Wallen. But again, if Post Malone didn't have the success through Morgan Wallen necessarily, will that album necessarily become like still rated as like a great album, or will it still be nominated? We don't know.
But that doesn't matter. That's what the music is what we're talking about, right? We're not talking about the specific artists.
Yes.
We're talking about the music itself. The music, if Morgan Wallen's not on the song, sure, maybe it doesn't go as big, like it doesn't do the numbers that it does, but the song is still the song. So if Post Malone, if you listen to I Had Some Help, a lot of their vocals are kind of indistinguishable if you're not listening for it. Both they sound alike on it. That song, if the industry pushes the song the way that they intended to push it, it doesn't matter whether Morgan Wallen's on the song or not.
I would disagree slightly because I think that there's a thing that Post Malone was actually achieving for. And I think that he intentionally went to go make a country album. So he went to go out here, he's like, all right, who has the #1 country songwriters in the world? And he's going to go contact these people and have people write him songs for this album. As to where Beyonce said, it's like, I want to do a country album, but I want to do it the opposite way. But again, if that means you're trying to go against the grain to try and prove a point, then good on you. But the problem is, though, don't be surprised when people don't perceive it the same way as what people have received it through years.
Well, I disagree with what you said about the purpose of why Post Malone made that album. I say if he wanted to make a country album, he could make a country album regardless.
I agree.
I think if you're bringing in the writers that have written on countless hit songs for the top country artists that are in the industry, I don't think you're just trying to create a country album. You're trying to create an imprint on the industry of your legacy and a foothold in that industry by legitimizing yourself as this country artist by using those writers. I think with Beyonce's, her point to it was you don't have to do that in order to find success in the genre, because the genre of music is about the music and it shouldn't be about the politics, which is what that is. If you're talking about, okay, well, I'm going to write with the top writers and I'm going to have them on it, how do we know that there's not artists that are in Nashville right now that could have made better songs than some of the ones that made that album?
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I mean, I agree. So, there are people in this town that can write better songs than the album.
Exactly. So my point being, she decided instead of doing that, instead of playing the politic game, I'm going to lift up these writers that don't really get any kind of credit in that genre, but are capable of writing that style of music, which is what it's all about, the music itself. But when you start talking about, oh, well, she's never been doing this before, and she's never, she's just kind of just proving that she can do it. That's literally the point, is that someone like Post Malone has access to resources that afford him an automatic number one.
Well, I would say it's the same thing though, because again, a lot of the numbers that are being pushed for Beyonce's album is through her fan base. But again, say for example, if you have 100 million followers, it's a lot easier to get your song number one than compared to somebody who has 2 million followers.
But at the same time, Post Malone's album is going. All of his songs are going to, when they come back around, his stuff is going to be nominated for all of those categories that Beyonce's weren't. Well, because of the politics.
I would disagree though. I might disagree with that one.
Oh, I don't. Wait till next year. I had some help.
We're gonna clip this, and then next year we're gonna see exactly who's on it. Yeah. Who was on it. Yeah. I don't think he might be nominated for one. I don't think he's gonna be nominated for album of the year.
It's gonna be. I think he's gonna be single of the year. I think he's gonna get single of the year. I think he's gonna get album of the year. I think he's gonna get best male. He's gonna get best new country artist. And
I would disagree with that one as well.
Oh, watch. Mark it. He's gonna get best new artist, and he's gonna get best male. He's at least not. I'm not going to say he's going to win them, but he's going to be nominated.
How many nominations do you think he's going to get?
At least 4.
I'm going to say he's going to get 2 nominations. I think he's going to win one. I think he's going to win one.
I think he's going to get 4, and he's going to win at least 1.
We'll see when it comes down to the CMAs though next year.
I think he wins at least 2. I think he wins album of the year, and I think he wins song of the year.
I think he's going to win song of the year. I don't think he's going to get album of the year. I think he's going to get song of the year. And I think this might get like male art.
You see how many Ashley Gorley features he has on that.
I think he's going to get nominated 2. But I think he's going to get 1. I think he's going to get I think he's going to get best song of the year, and I think he's going to get single of the year. So, 2 nominations for those. I think he's only going to win 1 though for song of the year, but that's going to be Morgan Wallen is attached to that as well.
I won't even say which 2 he'll get. I know he's going to get he'll be nominated for 4.
Well, we have the clips. We have the receipts for it. So
yeah, big bet.
But so there's that. But how long's on your film?
An hour and 1. So we can wind it down.
But anyway, this is our conversations. This is what it looks like at work.
Yeah, these are the kind of conversations we have in the middle of the floor when we're supposed to be dealing with customers.
Dealing with people coming to the doors.
We don't care. We'd be no, I'm sorry. Get out of our people will walk up and be like, God.
Yeah, how dare they interrupt our conversation? But you know what though? And I think these conversations like this are very healthy because obviously I think, people can be really passionate about their own opinions and that's fine.
For sure.
But I think it's still important to have conversations like this. And again, I think by having these conversations between us, I think it can obviously people can hopefully they can look on both sides of the
Oh, definitely.
And I'm not saying that I'm 100%
I want to know
right.
what you guys got. I want to know what y'all want to
Yes.
What y'all have to say about this for sure. We got to get yours.
We're going to post these and I want to see what you guys think. So we're going to make a poll and we're going to sit there and say do you agree with Drake or do you agree with Elliot? And then we're going to see who obviously we hope that it's a little more even than instead of somebody just be completely washed out. Elliot gets 97%, I get 3%.
Oh my God!
And it's the guy with glasses is stupid.
No. You're gonna have a lot of people who agree with you. The traditional country fans.
But we also want to see why you agree. Maybe there's some things that we just didn't point out, but there's also or if we set a point that you agree with, it just elaborate on it because again, I'm not saying I'm 100% right. It's just my opinion, but also I believe Elliot's saying the same thing. It's it's just his opinion. But again, we aren't. I don't hate Beyonce. I think she's super phenomenal. Again, I think she's super talented. I actually enjoy the song Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, she's super talented for
and
sure.
So,
I don't typically listen to I'm literally not a Beyonce. I can't name you 10 Beyonce songs if I'm being real with you. But it's not. I say that I could probably do it if I had to, but I don't listen to it. I don't.
Put a gun to my head and say, "Name me 10 Beyonce songs." I'm
no,
I'm done.
It's I would know them if you played them, but I don't listen. If you go to my Spotify, I would never. You won't find Beyonce. In
the first person I'm not pulling up is Beyonce.
Yeah, no, there's 0 Beyonce songs saved in my stuff. But I do think, just as a matter of principle, for the way that things appear like they should be supposed to go when it comes to awards and things and accolades of that nature, I think that politics are definitely involved, and I think that can sometimes overshadow the music itself, for one, because and that sometimes can keep people from learning about things like and discovering music that they might not otherwise have heard. Like I've discovered tons of music through awards that I've never listened to artists before. Like I remember when Beck won like album of the year.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's what I'm saying. But
you know what I'm saying?
I never heard his music before, exactly. But he won album of the year. I'm like,
I remember when that happened. I discovered his music because of it. So it's just like you never know like who could be listening, and I think it's just important for if you want to spread music, which is what I think the overall goal of these things are. I think that it's important to have representation for like all the different like niches in every aspect. So, but yeah, it's just opinions and everything. I think it definitely makes for great conversation. Like we have these conversations like all day.
Because I don't see anybody else talking about this.
No, literally, like I went online and I was trying to find it, and like I there's not really a discourse, which we need y'all to chime in. Like I'm gonna tag some folks. We need y'all to chime in on this, and I want to get your opinions.
Comment Beyonce. Yeah. Comment Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Comment Post Malone.
I want to hear all of y'all's opinions on this, and whether you post videos and tag us in them, whether you just sign up for the verified Twitter and write a discourse. You get unlimited characters.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that, but
I ain't
you know
doing
what I'm
either.
saying. But give us your best takes. Like we want to hear about it, and maybe we can come back later on in the season and revisit this conversation based on some of the things that you guys bring to the table. But again, this is y'all's podcast just as much as it is ours. We just want to hold the space for you.
But that is the conclusion of episode 2. We appreciate y'all for getting to this part. We love you, and we can't wait to talk to you guys on our next episode coming up. But stick around. It's always going to continue getting better and get good here. So
we're going to get nerdy on the next one.
Yes, we're going to get nerdy. And this one's like a very more like serious podcast. Yeah. Like this is not really showcasing our funniness, but the next one's going to be funny.
Yeah.
So, but stick around. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Later.